and welcome to the After Hours CB8 Speaks. We have our committee co-chair of the Health and Seniors and Social Services Committee, David Liston, here with us, and I get a chance to turn the tables and interview him for a change. So, David, tell me a little bit about why you wanted to join CB8 and why. I've seen that the chair of the board has a lot of responsibility and a lot of work. Why you ever wanted to chair the board?
Before I answer that, I just want to thank you again for letting me interview you. It was a real pleasure. I didn't expect for you to interview me, but turnabout is fair play. It's only fair. You asked why I wanted to be chair of the community board. I guess I should start out with why did I want to be on the board? Because that leads to why I wanted to be chair. I was the assistant district attorney or an assistant district attorney at the Manhattan DA's office for several years. I was involved in public service. I enjoyed it very much. I left the DA's office. I went into private practice. I've been there ever since, and I've enjoyed that a great deal. But public service kind of got into my blood or under my skin, and I think you know what that feels like, having dedicated so much of your career to public service. And I thought to myself, how else can I serve our community? And someone suggested to me, why don't you get involved with the 19th Precinct Community Council, which I did. And through that, I met Nick Viest, who's still on our board, and a number of other community board members. And they encouraged me to attend meetings of Community Board 8, which I did. And I was enthralled by what I saw. I was enthused by what the board did, and I applied. And eventually I got on the board, I'm happy to say, and I enjoyed serving on the board. But even there, I was looking for more of an opportunity to serve. And that opportunity came up. Eventually I ran. I was encouraged to run for chair, and I ran. I was only on the board for about 3 or 4 years before I ran for chair. The chair before me had been on the board for 22 years. The chair before him had been on the board for 18. The chair after me, for that matter, was on the board for 25 years. My theory is to be chair, you either have to have been on the board for over 20 years so that you know what you're getting yourself into, or you have to be on the board for 4 years or less so that you have no idea what you're getting yourself into. And I brought to that position not much other than tremendous enthusiasm, a commitment to public service, and the support of my fellow board members and the district manager. I guess I thought it was a chance to work on the board and serve it even more and encourage civility, encourage inclusiveness, encourage transparency, and make the board as relevant as possible in the lives of our neighbors. And I certainly hope I accomplished that. And since then, I've continued to remain involved in a number of different ways, and I hope I've continued to serve in that capacity.
All of those are very highly respectable and laudable things that you brought to the board, and you've been a great board member in my time at Dan's office, seeing how thoughtful and transparent you try to make the board. So it's seen on the other side too. So can you tell me a little bit more about the things you like to do outside of the board for volunteering and for improving our community?
Let me just thank you, though, for what you said. And I also want to say that one of the things I enjoyed most about being chair was working with the elected officials, particularly Dan Garodnick, and his staff, you in particular.
Thank you.
The service that you guys deliver to our community is tremendous. Now, outside of my work as a lawyer, and outside of a number of other community activities I'm involved with, I guess one of my greatest passions in life is the Holy Trinity Neighborhood Center. The Holy Trinity Neighborhood Center is a not-for-profit. Despite the name, it's actually a non-denominational not-for-profit. HTNC is what we call it for short. HTNC has been around a very long time, and it has, since its beginning and to the present day, served and continues to serve our neighbors in need. We live on the Upper East Side. Many of us work on the Upper East Side. People think of the Upper East Side as a very affluent place, and they imagine, diplomats and embassies and fancy museums and fancy restaurants and luxury high-rises. And our board has all of those things, but it also has people at the poverty level, Recent census figures indicate that almost 7% of the people who live on the Upper East Side live below the poverty level. We also have nearly 17% of our residents are senior citizens, many of them frail, many of them without financial resources. We also have many homeless neighbors. We have a lot of people who need support, and that support hopefully comes from a number of different places, but I'm hopeful and proud to say that some of the support comes from HTNC. We have a shelter where we house homeless neighbors every night of the week. We have a senior lunch. I can tell you more about that if you like. And we also have a neighborhood supper. The neighborhood supper is something we're particularly proud of. There are a lot of hungry people in our community, and there are a lot of ways to help them. There are programs where people can line up and be handed a bag with a sandwich in it and sent on their way. There are places where you can come inside and stand online and get a bowl of soup and eat it real quick and leave. And that's all good. If someone's hungry, they're going to be happy to be fed. What we do is at HTNC a bit more ambitious, but I think perhaps more profound. People are not only hungry for food, they're hungry for fellowship. And the neighborhood supper attempts to provide both. We have our guests sit down almost as if they were coming into your home or my home, if your home could feed 125 people, or perhaps a restaurant. The food is served sit-down style at a table, tables of 10 to 12 people. We have silverware, plates, basket of bread, appetizer, an entree, dessert, hot coffee. We try to make it really feel like a warm and welcoming environment. And part of that involves not only the volunteers preparing the food and serving the food, but interacting with our guests. We're very proud of that, and we think we're helping a lot of people. The other thing is our shelter. There are a lot of people who struggle to find a place to sleep at night. And one of the challenges that people who are homeless face is that there's not really any consistency in their life other than negative things, hunger and loneliness and any number of other challenges. We try to provide consistency to our guests. We have found that if someone is trying to break the cycle of homelessness, get back on their feet, one of the challenges that they face is they don't know where they're going to sleep from one night to the next. So if they're trying to get a job or if they're trying to put roots down in any way, not knowing where you're going to sleep at night presents a challenge. And we believe that if someone knows each night they're going to have the same place to stay, that can make the difference between an endless cycle of homelessness or breaking that cycle. We've helped a number of people break the cycle of homelessness. We've given them the same place to stay every night. And several of them have actually moved on from being homeless. In fact, in the past and from time to time, some of our volunteers in the shelter are former guests of the shelter. This is a different part of my life from the community board, and yet in many ways it overlaps the same sort of goals of neighbors coming together, trying to make a difference in their community and in the life of their city. And I'm just grateful for the opportunity to do that.
That sounds like a great opportunity to help your community and really improve your community in a meaningful way. So thank you for sharing that.
Well, by the way, you're welcome to come to our neighborhood supper and volunteer. Not that you have any time these days, but I'm going to make a pitch. I will say that Councilmember Gorodnick and Zoe and their kids volunteered a few times. We'd love to have you sometime.
Yeah, I would love to come. I would love to come. So thank you again to David for interviewing me, and thank you for joining us today on CB8 Speaks.
Thank you, Will.